I'm Mark Callahan, Mr. Saltwater Tank, and this is Mr. Saltwater Tank TV. Oh, what a difference a year makes. 12 months ago, my 450-gallon tank was just getting off the ground. Bridger here was just getting into model trains. Mark Hale was still in diapers. Sailor hadn't been rescued yet, and Bart was, well, still Bart. Bart! The light's on, but there's still no one home. So now that 12 months have passed, it's time to bring you an update on my tank. Let's get started. My tank is 96 inches long, 36 inches wide, and 30 inches tall. That comes out to about 448 gallons. Water gets into the sump through the 20-inch Synergy overflow box. My sump is an MRC industrial sump with dimensions 48 inches long, 24 inches wide, and 30 inches tall. Protein skimmer is handled by my Bubble King Supermarine 200, and I run GFO and carbon in separate reactors. When I started this tank, I chose to go with 3 different lighting types: LEDs, T5s, and metal halides. The correct way to install a chiller is to put it outside of the structure containing the fish tank. That way, as the chiller removes heat from the tank, it doesn't put it back in the room, which then heats the tank, which causes the chiller to stay on, which then heats the tank, which causes the chiller to stay on, etc. You get the point. Well, in my case, there was no practical way to put this chiller outside. My fish room is on the 2nd story of my house. It's in the front of the house. Without a whole bunch of effort, this chiller was going to stay indoors. Therefore, I knew I was going to have a bit of a heat problem in this room, but I didn't know how much until I got the chiller up and running. Once it was up and running, this room reached at least 92 degrees Fahrenheit. It was like a sauna. So a hot room heated the water in the sump, which heated the tank, which caused the chiller to turn on, which heated the room, which heated the water in the sump and the fish tank, which caused the chiller to stay on. You get the point. This wasn't working. Therefore, I had to make a change. I knew I had to get as much heat as possible out of the system. That meant the old dinosaur lighting in the form of the T5 fixture and the metal halide fixture had to go, and on had to go energy efficient LEDs. I had 4 Ecotech Marine Radions laying around, so I put them to work on the tank. And after seeing the Ecotech Marine Generation 4 Radions at Magna, I was impressed with the spread of the lights and the color rendering in the corals, so I added 6 of these G-Force to my tank. For those of you curious about lighting schedules, I'm running the AB Plus Coral Lab schedule from Ecotech with my lights coming on at 9:30 in the morning and turning off at 10 o'clock p.m. Maximum intensity is 75%. Here are some coral shots from around my tank. Yes, that's another orange passion frag in the back. I love this coral so much, I bought more. In case you're wondering who Bob is, he's my fish buddy and that coral came out of his tank. Here are some longer-term growth shots. And here are some of my other favorite corals from around my tank. Of course, I got my anemone kick on, but in a different way. I got a sea bay anemone because they hang out on the sandbed at the base of the rocks. That leaves more room for SPS. I love this anemone, and my clowns love it too. What else has changed on the tank? I also added some T5s to act as supplemental lighting to the tank. Now these T5s don't put out a lot of light, which is fine because the radions are doing nearly all the work. I merely added them as supplements to help with some shading in the tank. This isn't necessary, but it adds a nice touch. Of course I still have fish in the tank. I added a pair of pyramid butterflies and a juvenile Lineatus wrasse. I can't forget about my pair of pearly jawfish that add a ton of personality to the tank. I also added a pair of Potter's wrasses which flew through quarantine and ate like pigs. However, they're near impossible to film as they're super active. My Atlantic blue tang is slowly making the transition to an adult, but he's not quite there. My male crosshatch triggerfish continues to turn heads, and my black tang always catches people's eye. I still got all of these guys as well. Overall, I'm happy with how the tank is maturing. Now I just have to let everything grow in.